And here to answer your questions about cold weather health and safety is Dr. Cheryl Bedno, the Chief Medical Officer in the DHS Bureau of Environmental and Occupational Health. And we'll get right to your questions. Just a reminder to preserve audio quality, please stay on mute until you are called on. And our first question belongs to Evan Casey of Wisconsin Public Radio. Evan? Evan Casey? Okay, we'll move on then to Tony Langfellow from Fox 11. Tony. Again, on to Heather Poltrock from WSAW-TV. Heather.
Yes. So what is the most common health implication for people in cold weather?
So I'll highlight two of them. I think the more common ones are frostbite and hypothermia. So frostbite, which is sort of the freezing of the skin and deeper tissue, and then hypothermia, where our bodies aren't able to keep as warm as we can in the colder temperatures. So those are the two things that I would advise people: temperatures.
And do you have an additional question, WSAW?
Yeah. So I guess who is the most at risk for both of those, frostbite and hypothermia?
Yeah, I think that kind of succumb to the effects of cold, but there are groups that are at higher risk. Those that are very young, infants and older adults, those with problems with their circulation may be more prone to frostbite. Those who consume alcohol, especially in larger quantities, may not feel the effects of alcohol as much as they should in colder temperatures. And if they're very impaired, they may not realize they're getting as cold or suffering those health effects as they should. Those who work outside are at maybe at higher risk. Those who are experiencing homelessness, those who may not have adequate clothing, shelter, or heat as well. So I'll stop there. I think those are some of the higher risk groups, especially with some of those cold injuries like frostbite, hypothermia, and there's some others too.
Thank you. Now to Nicole Herzog from
Stay outside in freezing temperatures before the risk of frostbite becomes.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a challenging question, because I think sometimes the weather may talk about a time frame, but from the health standpoint, I'm a little bit more hesitant to give a time frame because everybody is different. People may be at higher risk than others, and so I think at least my advice is always to focus on prevention and not give a time limit, because that could be potentially dangerous to some individuals. So kind of erring on the prevention side is a little bit more important there.
And another question, Nicole?
Got it. Yeah. Then what are the most important steps as far as prevention and just staying warm, even things like clothing? What should you do to prepare?
Yeah, I think individuals are dressed appropriately. I think we've all heard about layering. Probably 3 layers is ideal. Looser clothing, especially protecting your extremities. Hands and feet are especially more prone to frostbite, fingers and toes. Carrying extra supplies. So if you're going somewhere and you may be outside, bringing an extra layer, especially if those items may get wet. Extra socks, extra mittens, whatever you can take with you. And then, planning for, if you need to take extra breaks, or if you're going outside, is there going to be somewhere where you can seek shelter if it is getting too cold? So really that planning and preparation is very important during cold like we're going to experience.
Thank you. Now to Samantha Cavalli from WBAY-TV in Green.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of want to go back to the essential workers. You know, there's a lot of people who do work outside, whether it's mail carriers, delivery drivers, firefighters, police officers, BOT workers. Is there anything in place for those workers when it comes to this drastic Arctic air that we're getting, of how long they should be outside, or, you know, taking a day off, or, you know, make sure people are calling if it's a true emergency so that their exposure outside is less?
Yeah, I mean, my advice to workers is going to be somewhat similar to everybody else in terms of preparation, and it's going to really be employer dependent. And I mean, I also want to mention we think outside, but sometimes inside environments, especially in cold weather, may not be able to keep up. So there are inside environments where workers need to protect themselves. I think, you know, advice to employers, and many employers are already following this, is to make sure employees are well trained on what to expect in cold environments. And then can they make any changes in their work environment due to the cold? And that's really going to be dependent on the nature of the work. And you mentioned some of those. Can things be shifted around based on that day's activities and the weather? You know, can that work? Can they have different work rest schedules? So if they have to go outside, there's a means to come inside for a period of time before they go back outside. Again, it's all going to be dependent on the employer, and if they already have some of these plans in place to kind of, you know, prepare for and work in the cold.
And a follow-up, Samantha?
My only follow-up was in regarding the consuming alcohol. You know, a lot of there's here in downtown Appleton, we have Lawrence University, we have UWGB. We've heard stories of, you know, people not wearing a coat outside and they're too intoxicated and fall in the snow, and people have, you know, had frostbite or have, you know, unfortunately passed away. So what is the advice to those who are going outside maybe this weekend or even early next week of what to do and what to, I guess, prepare for so that nothing like that happens around here?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of alcohol, I would first advise, you know, if people choose to drink in moderation, because I think the more you drink and the more one gets impaired, they may not make the right decisions in the cold. So I think just watching the amount one drinks. I also think that if people are going out together, you notice on somebody you're with that you're all of a sudden your hands look a little bit red or something. So you know, watch out for each other with the effects of cold. And I think for people to understand that although alcohol may seem like they are okay in the cold, that is a false sense of warming. So I think people just need to realize that and then make plans accordingly. Again, it's, you know, preparation, and people may, you know, rethink some of their plans.
Thank you. Now we'll go back to the top of the list and see if Evan Casey from Wisconsin Public Radio has joined us. Evan? Evan Casey? Tony Langfellow from Fox 11. Tony? Okay, then we'll go back around to Heather Poltrock or WSAW-TV in Wausau. Do you have any?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nicole Herzog, NBC 15.
Yeah, I'm good as well. Thank you.
Okay, and back to Samantha from WBAY.
I think my only other question is just what, well, I mean, obviously we talk about certain clothing, hats, gloves, scarves, layers, anything else in particular that people may not already be thinking of that they should have, in case they have frostbite or get hypothermia.
So I think those are, important to, protect oneself from the cold, really with a focus on, protecting one's head and face, hands, feet, and then also consideration of the environment if if somebody's going to get wet, because hypothermia may start sooner in a wet environment. So to take that into account if it's going to be wet. So, I mean, I think that in terms of, outside protection in terms of clothing, and then, I think knowing the resources and if somebody's going to go out, where are they going? And just general safety. Are they driving somewhere? Are they going for a long walk? Are they going to work? So I think some of those precautions are going to depend on what people are doing and if they need other changes or any other additions. But I think just being well prepared and knowing the resources in the event that they're not prepared for the cold.
And we're going to open it up to anyone on the call who hasn't had an opportunity to ask a question. If you want to raise your hand or put it in the chat, we'll be happy to call on you. I'll just give you a few seconds. Okay, well, with that, we will. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a question from the Green Bay Press Gazette in the chat. What are the important signs or symptoms to?
I'm gonna give some general kind of signs to look out for, but I want to emphasize everybody's different, so people may have different symptoms. For frostbite, the affected area may be red, can be painful. It may later kind of to the freezing of the skin. So, you look out for especially the fingers, toes, ears. So it's going to be those areas that may be more sensitive or exposed to the cold. And then hypothermia, which, your body just can't keep itself warm fast enough. So it's becoming colder. And it may look a little bit different in adults and then infants. Adults, it's going to be shivering. It could be exhaustion. If it gets even worse, it could be confusion, slurred infants or in infants, reddish skin, and they may have lower energy. So those are some of the kind of signs in both groups.
Thank you for that and for all the great information shared today and all the great questions that you asked. That will conclude today's media availability. If you have any follow-up questions, though, you can send those to DHS. Cold weather, health, and safety can be found on the DHS website. Stay warm and have a good weekend.
Real quick, how is this going to be sent out? Is this going to be like emailed to all of us or?
Weren't you recording?
Yes.
Okay. You certainly can use the recording, but there is no release that accompanies this, but you're welcome to use any quotes or sound bites from the video. And if for some reason you didn't record it, we certainly can send you a copy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you